Home prices slid the most since 2005. Yes, the biggest drop in a single month in 17 years happened last month, primarily because of increased interest rates. And more than likely, that's only going to get worse with the most recent interest rate increase from the Bank of Canada. The definitive guide on how to manage your credit: product, penalty, price, in that order. It's never been more important to get your mortgage right. Okay, so in the Canadian real estate update for July of 2022, we are going to go through the most recent CREA data, as well as data from across the country: Vancouver, Toronto, Calgary, Montreal, with respect to what's going on with housing prices in all of those markets. And there is a similar theme in all of those markets, and that is that home sales are going down, and in some of those markets, home prices are decreasing pretty rapidly. But in some, we're still seeing a little bit of an uptick. But before we get into all the details, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, and please hit that like button so more people like you can see this video. And don't forget to check out our Homebuyer Bootcamp if you are in the market for a home in the near future, because there's going to be some really good opportunities to buy in the next little while, especially as we see this summer lull. Because believe it or not, we still have a housing supply shortage in Canada, and it doesn't necessarily mean just because housing prices are coming down right now that they're going to come down substantially for the rest of the year, or into next year, or the year after that, or the year after that for that matter. So if you want to be the most informed homebuyer in your market, check out our Homebuyer Bootcamp. You will save at least 10 to 50 times your money back just by taking that course. And on top of that, we put in a secret offer to make sure that you get at least 10 times your money back if you end up choosing Mortgage 360 for your mortgage. Okay, so let's get into it. Let's discuss what's going on in the Canadian real estate market, because this last month was a doozy. A 1.9% decrease in housing prices across Canada. That is the single biggest decrease in a single month since 2005, or 17 years. So this was absolutely a huge one. And I want to jump you in and show you the headlines here. BNN Bloomberg is reporting, as I mentioned in the intro, home prices slide most since at least 2005 on Rate Shock. And there's no surprise here. I mean, 1.9% decrease in housing prices. We're seeing a significant rundown in the number of sales. And for the most part, this is due to inflation, higher interest rates, and just a general lack of fear that is going through the Canadian real estate market. If you take a look right here, it's been quite some time since we've seen any sort of a dip. So this is huge right here. And I'm going to guess that we're going to see quite a bit of downward pressure over the next couple of months, but I don't think it's going to be long-lived. The reason why is because we still have a housing shortage. It doesn't matter which way you put it. There isn't enough houses to house Canadians and the new immigrants that are coming into Canada. But what's really interesting is that Oakville and places sort of in the suburbs of Toronto are feeling the most pain. So Oakville, for example, has seen a 10% drop in housing prices over the last 3 months, while London, Ontario, which is about 2 hours away from Toronto, has seen about a 13% decline. So depending on where you're at, depending if you were in one of those markets that benefited from the moving of everybody from the central areas to the suburbs, well, you're starting to see more pressure as people are starting to move back to the more central cores as things like work from home go away. So this is really, really interesting. The people who found the joy of being in the suburbs and having nicer amenities during the pandemic are starting to be the ones who have the most pain with respect to the housing price drops. Now, the other thing to note here is this is the first time that we've seen 3 consecutive months, month over month, of declining prices since 2019, which was basically just before the pandemic. So we were starting to feel a little bit of downward pressure back then, but keep in mind that we also saw essentially a 50% run up in prices in 2020 and 2021. Now, all of this rate pressure has economists and real estate companies changing their outlooks on the real estate market. For example, Royal LePage updated its 2022 forecast, predicting only a 5% increase in 2022. They started at 15% at the beginning of the year. Now, keep in mind, this is based on year-over-year numbers, not month-over-month numbers. And this is a pretty significant drop in the forecast, considering that they were expecting significantly more leading into 2022. And then as we start to go across the country here, Toronto June home sales sink 41% off of their record last year, sidelining more buyers. So a lot of people are stepping out of the market, waiting to see what happens, especially in that Toronto area. By the way, the Toronto and the Vancouver areas, which are the areas that have such huge housing prices, are the areas that are going to suffer the most with respect to downturns in prices. They're also the areas that saw the biggest run up in prices. Sales were down 11.1% month over month. So June compared to May, which is a pretty big drop. Normally we see a lot of home sales in June, and very much the Toronto market is just suffering more than most of the markets across the country. Now, moving to our other big market, which is Vancouver. Vancouver June home sales are down 16% from May. So this is a bigger decline than what Toronto saw. As we go through here and we take a look at the article, you can see that sales dropped below the 10-year June sales average. So in other words, they're down about 23% compared to the number of sales that would normally happen. So that's definitely a slowdown in that Vancouver market. And we're also seeing prices down to 1.2 million. That's a 12.4% increase over June of 2021, but a 2% decrease compared to May of 2022, and a 2.2% decrease over the past 3 months. So seeing this Vancouver market finally start to turn and start to have lower prices is a pretty significant indicator. Now, moving into Calgary home sales ease amid pullback in the detached market. However, we aren't seeing the same story in Calgary that we're seeing across the rest of the country. We aren't seeing those pullbacks in prices necessarily. Prices are up roughly 5% from last year. And a key point here from Chief Economist at the Calgary Real Estate Board, Anne-Marie Laurie, is that you have to remember that Calgary's year-to-date sales are still at record levels and prices are still far above expectations for the year. And this goes to show that the Canadian real estate market is very vast across the country. And because we have such a huge landmass, different markets throughout the country operate in different ways. The manufacturing base in Ontario is significantly different than the commodity base in the prairies, which is considerably different than the technology and shipping base that happens in the Vancouver market. So all of these markets operate very differently, almost as if they're in completely different countries. We share a tax system, but we share very different economies across the country. And then last but not least, because so many people have been asking for it, I want to take you in and show you the Montreal numbers. Montreal has not bucked the trend of the rest of the country here. Sales have dropped 11% since last year. The median price of a single family home reached $570,000 last month, a 12% increase from June of 2021, but a $6,000 decrease from May of 2022. So home prices are clearly heading downward in that Montreal area as well. And it appears very much not only in Montreal, but across the country that markets are stabilizing, the bidding wars are going away. And again, there are some opportunities now that those bidding wars have disappeared for first-time home buyers and move-up buyers to pick up houses at cheaper prices without getting into these crazy bidding wars. And by the way, I said it a long time ago, the single biggest thing you needed to avoid in the last 2 years was those crazy bidding wars. I know some people didn't have the ability to, they were buying based on need, not on want. But for those that bought on want and bought at significantly higher than the market, well, this is the pain that you're feeling right now. It's probably going to take a very, very, very long time for you to get back to even on those properties. So the main thing that you have to do is now decide that you're going to hold on to that property, continue to make your payments, and just wait this market out for the next 5-10 years until housing prices start to make a turn and come back up. But you do have that supply issue on your side, the immigration issues on your side, and the fact that we have a lot of economic data to support the fact that real estate in Canada, at least not yet, isn't headed for any sort of real estate crash anytime soon. So that's your July real estate update. If you found this video useful, do me that favor, hit that subscribe button. Please hit that like button so more people like you can see this video. We're going to post some more individualized market videos in the coming days, so stay tuned for that, and we'll see you on the very next one. Cheers.